All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's session on mastering an early stage fundraising for startups. I'm Olga Maslikova, host of the J Curve. You guys who are sitting here, because the format is hybrid, already know who is on the panel, but I'll briefly repeat myself. Eric Asher, Mona Schiess, Ricardo Salem, Flash, and Gustavo Mapelli, Canastra, some of the best early stage investors and operators and entrepreneurs that I know. So I'm super excited to be joined by them. And we're going to talk about the fundraising because just to bring a little bit of the stats that less than 1% of startups secure venture capital funding. And out of those companies that secure venture capital funding, 70% of people fail down the line when they attempt to raise Series B or raise Series C. And a lot of that failure is attributed to poor early decisions that startups made in terms of the terms that they're signing up for and in terms of the partners that they select. So I'm super excited to cover all of those things. The way it will be running today is that we're going to have 3 segments for this conversation. The first segment is crafting the narrative and materials, being it product deck, pitch deck, startup storytelling that resonates with investors. The second segment will be picking the right partners and how to think about selecting partners for growth from the earliest stages, from angel seed investors to evolving along the startup life cycle, choosing VCs and growth investors. And the final part will be navigating the term sheet. So we're gonna get tactical, and we're gonna be talking about various liquidation preferences, dilutions, pro ratas, and all the details that can make and break your future. So, and let's start with the big picture and with the broad general questions to all of you guys. So what do you believe is the most overlooked but most critical skill for founders raising their first capital? And by first capital, Eric, you can think like VC capital, you can think angel capital, whatever you feel as the first meaningful capital in the cycle of the company.
Well,
all eyes on you.
No problem. Thank you very much for the invitation to be here today. It's a pleasure. It's, of course, a tremendous pleasure to share the conversation with such great entrepreneurs like Ricardo and Gustavo. Thank you very much. So when I say overlooked, it's very different today. I have to stress that we started at Mona Schiess 20 years ago. Very different times that nobody knew how to put a pitch together. So what was needed back then was basic skills on putting together a pitch and a fundraising narrative. Today, actually the game is getting more and more sophisticated because there's a lot of information. Entrepreneurs share a lot of information, lots of sources of information on how, including AI, on how to structure pitch decks and how to do these narratives. So today, I believe, we talk to so many entrepreneurs that come with a perfect narrative, a perfect pitch, very well structured, covers all the basic things, all the natural structural things. That I believe today, and this was very valuable back then because this was very unique. In order to do something like that was a different skill. Today, the different skill, in my opinion, is the authenticity. To be really authentic, because we today see a lot of kind of cookie cutting approaches to pitch decks that just cover a natural script and just go through all the points. And there's always a story about the why you're doing this, that you can see that is a little, sometimes kind of forced here and there. So what we are looking today is for a lot for authenticity, is to really this reflection on, this pitch reflects who I am, who the team is, and what we want to build. So in my opinion, the most important as an early stage, tech VC, the most important part of the pitch, because when you are having this conversation is not, if you are just pitching for a decision that will be made during that meeting, there's something wrong. I mean, what you want is to open the door for other conversations. You want to continue to know who that investor is, because this is a long-term partnership. You don't want to make decisions too fast. We know what happened. It may happen, sometimes it goes well, but most of the times what you want is to open the door. You want the VC or the angel or whoever you're talking to to really feel energized after that conversation. So he's willing to really continue the conversation. And I really believe that is related to the authenticity of the message, to the authenticity of, especially, I know this is a little bit of a cliche, of the why you're building this company. And why do you think the team is the best team to do it? Why do you think you can build and be successful in that market, the size of the market, the competition and everything? But really focusing on the why and on the team, because sometimes these things get overlooked in pitches. You just go through that, oh, we're doing this because of this, and then focus on the business model, on the analytics, and that's fine, of course, that's very important. But for early stage, spend more time on the why and on the team.
And we're going to transition to you in a second, but can you elaborate a little bit more in terms of why this personal reasoning and why there's strong motivation to address this problem is so important? Because technically speaking, people can build big businesses and important, meaningful businesses without having a skin in the game or without having this
Totally.
specific motivation or desire to address this problem. But why is that important in these earlier stages?
Oh, that's a great question, because when I say the why, I'm not saying, oh, you have to be in love with the specific problem that you're solving since you were a kid. I'm not saying that. Actually, there are two types of entrepreneurs that I think are very successful, in my opinion, but both share one thing in common. There are entrepreneurs that are passionate about impact. And when I say impact, I'm not talking about impact investing, I'm talking about making really a dent in the universe and creating something really big and changing, solving a relevant problem, having a lot of success. And it doesn't matter which company will be. It can be in fintech, in prop tech, in health tech. They will choose a problem because they want to have that impact. But that is needed. That passion to really have that type of impact is non-negotiable. You need that to build something that's really meaningful, which is, of course, that's another conversation, but it has to do with you have to see, if you want to take the VC track, the size of the funds that you're attracting, the economics. That's why you really need to build something really, really big. The second, and it usually helps a lot, but it's on top of this passion for impact, is the identification you have with the problem you're solving. If you have that, that's great. That's a great plus. But it's not only that will not get you there. You need either both or the passion for really build something big. And the why is so important, because it's in the why that you will really see if the team and the founders will have the necessary resilience. Resilience will come from that motivation.
Yeah, you cannot grind unless you find some intrinsic motivation, right? Because rational logic, if you start a company with so much uncertainty and so many unknowns, I'm just going to go to Faria Lima, it's better paid. I put my Patagonia jacket on and let's go. What do you guys think about what Eric just said, and maybe building on that a little bit?
I think I would add one point that when I talk to very early stage founders that are doing this for the first time, they usually miss. And it's not on the pitch, it's on the process. People forget that fundraising is a process and should have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And they start having kind of relationship conversations and thesis validation conversation. And those get mixed together with starting the fundraising process, whereas they should use validation as a thesis and be very selective as to who they talk to at that stage, versus plan when they start the fundraising and who they're going to talk through the fundraising and when does that start, and then balance the process and make sure everybody's evolving at the same speed. There are enough people, let's say, treat it as a funnel, at the same time in the process and evolving well, etc., to get to term sheet or sheets in a similar way. And I think I see too many folks, we as Brazilians tend to be less structured and more relationship driven and mix together easy conversations with formal conversations. And I think it's in our best interest as founders to actually separate the two and actually plan this as a process and run it more structuredly.
Yeah, no, just one thing I would add is sometimes people come to me, I'm sure they come to you or to any founders here, and they say, oh, you had some success fundraising, like what's your secret sauce, right? And I think that people who ask this question, they tend to put too much attention on the fundraising itself. And I know this is a bit counterintuitive, but to me, and I think I told you this, the fundraising process is a consummation of, one, how you communicate your strategy, and two, and how you think your strategy, and two, execution, especially in the later stages. So, if you have a poor strategy and if you have poor execution, nothing's going to solve for that during the fundraising. So, yeah, I just try to think and to advise when I can that, like, if especially at like seed stage where there's not much execution to show, you should invest probably like a disproportionate amount of time thinking about like the strategy itself and whether that's fit or not for venture capital and the elements, rather than just like the fundraising itself.
May I add one more thing?
Yeah.
Links to his. I think self-reflection and clarity on what's more critical to your business model is essential for the pitch deck, but the pitch conversations for proving that you know what it takes to win, and that changes per business model, etc. In our case, for example, product and distribution, so go-to-market were always critical. So we obviously needed to have a lot more depth and credibility there both on the pitch deck, but also on our thinking, on our strategy, on our communication, on building our teams. So clarity on what's critical for you to succeed and for your business model, and thus making sure that reflects both on your strategy thinking as well as on your pitch and on our business model and on your execution is critical. We always spend a ton of time thinking about what was our product strategy given the amount of stuff that we could do that was critical to us. Go to market on a B2B scalable business was also always critical to us. So we competed with incumbents that was their edge. So making sure we had a model that we could win, that reflected go-to-market strategy, ICP, the customer profile, size of client, how to get to those in a scalable way. Those were critical things for us in our business model, and thus always things. And in every single pitch, we had to show execution and/or clarity on strategy.
Yeah, and just to add on that, if I can, like to get very practical, like people who are dreamers, like you dream with a business that in the future is going to be super complex and have all this product and so on. But the way to get there, what you do first, you do later, that really is important, And in our case, and that's also the case, I believe, for many businesses, there was a more capital-intensive way to do that and a less capital-intensive way to do that. And this discussion on whether like which path we would take from like day zero and how we would pitch the business, that, for example, is one type of discussion that matters much more to the fundraising process when compared to, I don't know, like my voice or whether like my pitch deck has 15 or 20 slides, So yeah, just going to the core of the matter of what the business is sometimes matter more than the material itself.
So the core of the business, I want to get back to Ricardo for 1 second, because you have a very diversified cap table, right? You have Eric on your cap table, but you also have like global investors on your cap table. And the way you talk about your go-to-market, the way you talk about market, and the way you talk about opportunities probably varies, right? Because Eric understands the space here. So it's like one sort of narrative, right? But when you have to explain your business, which I think is the case for a lot of founders because of the scale of the problems that exist in Brazil, but when you need to explain your business and your strategy and your product and the opportunity to someone who has no like domain experience, like how do you do that, and how do you even think about this like difference in narrative tailored towards someone who's kind of understand the specifics and dynamics and someone who doesn't?
Great question. I think there's two elements to that question. One is understanding that even they're global, there are different types of investors. There are, let's say, more financial investors who are more focused on the metrics, the TAM, and the scalability of your business model. There's more, let's say, product/team/execution-oriented global VCs, which will be much more in depth in those things in the discussion, etc. And obviously, there are the Brazil/business-specific aspects to my business, which is a regulated, very technical product in Brazil. So doing labor law and benefits 101 is kind of a key 3-minute starter of any first conversation tailored to them. So you need to learn how to translate those in a very simple and concise way, literally 3 minutes, to them so that they understand the basic concepts and try to think of their lens. What are the things that look alike you that are things that they understand? It's very different to do that to a Chinese investor than to a investor that already knows corporate credit cards in the US, for example. So think about that difference in perspective and try to translate your business on that very initial summary to them. And then the conversation naturally goes, you learn as you do a few, that they take the conversation to a different size. So if it's a more financial investors, they're gonna be more focused on how much you're growing, what your gross margins, what's your ARR evolution, what's your net revenue retention, what's your cash burn to new margin, what's your TAM and how big this can be, etc. If they are more traditional VC who is more product and tech oriented, they want to see product demos. They want to go deeper on product roadmap. They want to go deeper on the product experience and the engagement it generates. So those are much different from types of investors. So I would say start learning that there are different types of investors, which are the ones that you want, and the answer changes over time, to be fair. You probably need a bit of all, and tailor your pitch and your phrasing and your messages to all of those.